What's up, everybody? This is the Sports League podcast, back for another week. This is the 2023 college football playoff preview, and we're going to recap the championship games and talk about the playoff selection process and who got in and who got snubbed. And Dean, it's great to have you back on for another week.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. I'm pleased to be with you again.
Yeah, and a lot to talk about. A crazy, selection, playoffs, and let's get it started with. So let's talk about the championship games. The Pac-12 championship. Washington beats Oregon in another excellent game. Comes down to the wire, 34-31, and the Huskies win. They win the Pac-12 championship. They go undefeated, and so they make the playoffs, and they should, right? To me, if you go undefeated and win a Power Five conference championship, that should put you into the playoffs. That should be the recipe, right?
Yes, it should be.
Yeah. And how about Washington beating Oregon twice, and that really got them in, right?
No doubt about it. I think the winner of that game, either one would have gotten in.
Yeah.
But that really cemented it very solid. Uh, I think everybody feels pretty good about Washington's strength.
Yeah, and pretty crazy that that's the final game of the Pac-12
Oh yeah,
conference.
yeah,
Uh, and an incredible season for the Pac-12. And I found it pretty cool that all the Pac-12 mascots were at that championship game.
yeah. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, but it's got to be sad to see the Pac-12 uh, over like that. A long history of that conference, whether it was the Pac-12, Pac-10, or Pac-8, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's really a sad day to see the end of a conference that, I mean, who could ever imagine that they would ever have a problem
Yeah,
existing?
yeah,
I mean, it just blows my mind that the thing just unraveled so quickly.
yeah.
I mean, it was just, unbelievable.
And
Uh,
to think about all the talent and the great teams that have been in that conference over the years.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's just not going to be the Conference of Champions anymore.
Yeah.
It's going to go to someone else, I guess.
Well, and they're talking about teams from the Pac-12 and kind of joining with the Mountain West and playing a Mountain West type schedule. So if they can come together with them, they can still have a pretty formidable conference, I would think.
Well, it will certainly strengthen the Mountain West.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a good ad for them.
Yeah.
But, to spread the talent out from the big Pac-12 to other areas is just so sad to see.
Yeah, and it doesn't make sense in a lot of ways to see these teams going to the Big Ten and going, and moving around like they are. It doesn't fit. I mean, UCLA and the Big Ten, that USC and the Big Ten, it makes no sense.
No, because the Rose Bowl was it.
Yeah,
I mean, that's Big Ten, Pac-12. Let's get after it.
yeah,
I mean, that's always was the huge game of the year in the bowls.
yeah,
And now, I mean, yeah, the Rose Bowl will still be there, but it ain't going to be the same at all. I mean, now it's not even the Big Ten anymore. It's really the coast to coast conference.
yeah.
That's crazy.
And our only hope when they expand it to 12-team playoff, we can kind of keep these bowl games relevant and a big deal, having them be playoff games. and it'll be cool if through the playoffs we get some Big Ten, like some Big Ten Pac-12. It won't be the conferences, but some old school rivalry in the Rose Bowl, you know?
Yeah, there'll be I think at times those two old rivals will end up in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah,
But like you said, it's going to open up for a lot of other uh, opportunities for a lot of other teams to go there too. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's kind of nice for the other conferences.
yeah, yeah. It'll be interesting, and all bets are off really going forward. It's the Wild West out here in college football with the NIL and uh, conference realignment and a 12-team playoff. It just throws a wrench in the long-standing tradition and really opens it up to just chaos now.
Yeah, well, especially this year, it's in a way, you know, the committee did put the death knife into their 14 committee. I
Absolutely.
mean,
And
they basically killed themselves there. Expanding it, I'm not still certain in my mind, Alex, that it's going to be any better.
it's not gonna, I mean, again, it's gonna be flawed. It's not gonna be perfect, but it allows them more room for error in the fact that, like, if a 13 seed gets left out, it's not as big of a deal. It's a big deal to them, but it's not as big of a deal as a 5 seed or a Power Five conference champion being left out. And we're gonna get into that here in a few, but I can't believe it. So Washington gets in. That makes sense to everybody,
Yes,
and they're gonna be a formidable. They're gonna be tough to beat. Who you know, uh, it, again, they can beat anybody. So uh, they're going to be fun to watch in the playoffs. The Big 12 championship game, Texas beats Oklahoma State, and Texas gets in. And this is interesting to me because do you think Texas winning the Big 12 the way they did, looking at Texas full season, do you think they deserve to be in?
uh, going over their season, I think they're probably one of the best of the one-loss teams.
Yeah,
I mean, considering they did beat Alabama and Kansas State and Oklahoma State, they did lose to Oklahoma,
yeah.
but overall, I thought they presented themselves as a strong team.
It's interesting because when you look at all the one loss teams, it's very tightly matched, right? You can make
Yeah,
a case for Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, all those teams that, like, you can make a case for every single one of them.
absolutely. They could all go and stand before the judge and say, "This is how I see it," and it
Yeah.
would all be fair and legit and worthy of consideration.
That's why I think an 8-team playoff this year. Someone suggested, hey, this is how you fix it this year. Emergency 8-team playoff, right? That's how you fix it.
Well, well, it would certainly make Florida State happy.
Yeah, exactly. And it would make Ohio State happy. And
Yeah,
to me,
in
this is
Georgia.
this is as mind-boggling as the Florida State issue is Georgia, who's a two-time defending champ, went undefeated until the SEC championship game and lost to Alabama, who's a very good Alabama. And in my mind, how can you leave out if you're looking at best 4 teams in the country, right? How is Georgia not one of the best 4 teams in the country? I know they lost to Alabama,
By
but
3 points.
Georgia, yeah, by 3 points in a neutral field,
Yeah,
Georgia could beat anybody on any night, right? Talent
yeah,
wise.
yes.
And it's crazy to me that Georgia gets left out. And Georgia fans have to be upset at the fact that they don't get a chance to three-peat.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, it's you said it. they're not going to do it,
Yeah.
but I don't think you expected it this way.
It's just crazy. And if you put Georgia into the playoffs, let's say it's an 8-team playoff, Georgia against any team would have a legitimate chance to win and win the whole thing. So, that's why it's definitely flawed. That Alabama gets in and they lost to Texas, right? And
Right.
a lot of people were making a big deal about you can't put Alabama in and not put in Texas. And
Well, yeah,
so,
yeah, that would be the discussion, wouldn't it?
yeah,
It comes out, they want to throw that head-to-head thing at you.
yeah,
It's like, well, but that's fine if they had played the same teams and they lost to the same team,
yeah,
but Texas lost to a lower rated team.
yeah,
Alabama should be above them.
yeah. It's interesting how that goes. Like
But if you put either one of those teams in, you got to put the other one in. That's their thinking,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. And so technically, and that's why it was always flawed because if you've got five undefeated conference champs and it's a 4-team playoff, who gets left out, right?
Someone every year gets left out.
Yeah,
I mean, right there should have told you that the system is flawed
yeah,
and that we can't do this way.
yeah,
And that would be the time that they said, well, we probably ought to go to 6 or 8 at least
yeah, exactly.
immediately.
Yeah.
But
I wish
they never even flinched.
Yeah, I wish they could do it this year. This is going to be one of those big asterisk years, like the year when with split champions, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those asterisk years where it's like we probably didn't get it right, and regardless of what happens.
Well, the people that's running the committee don't feel that way.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're going to stand on it and say they made the right decision, but everyone else knows differently, knows better, right?
yeah.
Um,
There can't be a football fan, college football fan, sports writer, or anyone involved that would agree
yeah,
that Florida State should not be in.
yeah.
No one in their right mind would say, no, they shouldn't be there.
And then, I mean, Florida State, absolutely. But what about Georgia, Bama? How can you say that Bama deserves to be in over Georgia? Now, you can say, well, Bama beat Georgia and won the SEC championship game, but Bama also lost at home earlier in the year to Texas. And is that a better loss than Georgia losing to Bama?
That is just the factors that would have to have been discussed.
Yeah,
And I don't know. It would have been fun to have been in there and listen to these people and
yeah.
what they were saying because I don't know how they ever come up with the Final Four. That just blows my mind away.
Yeah, and so Michigan, shuts out Iowa, blows them out 26-0. Michigan's a no-brainer and a no-brainer 1 seed in my opinion. Some people think Washington should be one. Do you? So what? The numbers have Washington as one, right?
Yeah.
What do you think on that? Do you think Michigan is number one, or do you agree with the numbers that Washington could be number one?
Um, the numbers reflect what they did on the field.
Yeah,
The numbers doesn't have eyeballs and it doesn't see the games,
yeah,
but it does recognize what each team actually did.
yeah.
And Washington actually they beat a better team, a much better team than Michigan did
In the conference championship.
in the conference championship.
Yeah,
So how could you move Michigan above Washington then?
yeah, and beat them twice.
Everybody was saying Oregon was going to win.
Yeah, and what was with that spread too? Why
Yeah,
was Oregon favored like that? That makes no sense.
I didn't get it either, but that's what it was.
Yeah,
So I mean, you can argue the point. Those two teams are so close,
Yeah.
and even in the numbers, they're very close. But
According to the numbers, that would be a pretty fun national championship game, Michigan and Washington.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Um, and then yeah, let's finally get to Florida State. I mean, I'm watching the ACC championship game, and Florida State's out there with a third string quarterback, and it's a hard fought, grinded out, low scoring battle with Louisville. And a lot of people, and I think even the playoff committee was kind of hoping Louisville would win that just
yeah,
to eliminate Florida State from the conversation.
yeah.
But Florida State takes care of business, plays some great defense, wins 16-6. And you see a lot of people saying, well, you can't put Florida State in with a third string quarterback. They'll just get knocked out. And my point is, you're getting the second stringer back. They're going to
Yeah.
be more competitive. And I don't see how you can leave out an undefeated Power Five conference champ. That alone should put you in, regardless, right? Florida State deserves the opportunity. Don't you agree?
Well, if I recall, there are in college football, it's supposed to be a team sport,
Yes.
and it's obvious that it is.
Yeah.
You got to have the linemen, you got to have the receivers, you got to have the defensive backs, and you got to have the quarterback, and you got to have the whole package in order to be a championship team.
Yeah.
You have to have all that support for one another. And Florida State stepped up and filled in for their lost quarterback and
Yeah.
played one whale of a football game.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that was a team effort all the way through. I mean, and they don't get credit for it.
Yeah. And it's stupid because they put so much on the quarterback and not team football. And you're right. At the end of the day, it is team football. And it's the only justification I can find for leaving Florida State out is money and TV ratings, right?
I would think that would be a factor. Now, I don't know what the committee does in that field. I would hope that that wouldn't be part
Yeah,
of it, but I don't know. Maybe they are
certainly.
talking about attraction. Is this attractive game?
Yeah.
Would they be an attractive game team? I hope they don't think that way, but they could have.
If you leave the door open for that, it almost seems like they would, right? And uh, maybe they're a little bit in the back of their minds upset about in the back of their mind they're thinking about last year's national championship game when TCU got their doors blown off and saying we don't want that again. And maybe that factors in some way, do you think?
Again, if you could just sit in there with them. I mean, we're trying to guess what they were thinking,
Yeah.
and that's you can't imagine.
Yep.
You wouldn't think that they would think that way, but they could have. They could have run that past them and said, we don't want a blowout. But I mean, that's part of the game. You
Yeah.
find the teams that earn it, and then you let them play it out. Sometimes teams just get beat.
Yep. Hey, Michigan dropped the ball. If Michigan had beaten TCU, it would have been a much better matchup, Michigan and Georgia.
Yeah,
And who's to say, as great as Georgia was last year, who's to say Georgia doesn't blow out Michigan?
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, I don't know. You could the hindsight is 2020, of course, and you can go back and try to revamp everything and make it come out a better way, but it's just so flawed that it doesn't really matter anymore.
yeah. So to me, this is how I would have done it. The four most deserving teams, and I think that's the way it should be, you should take out everything out of it. It should be the most four deserving teams, and it should go one Michigan, two Washington, three Florida State, and then the debate should start with the one-loss teams. Who's the best and most deserving one-loss team? But Florida State, going undefeated, Power Five conference champ, should automatically be in there, and that should have been set in a stone when they put the playoffs in place. That if you go undefeated and win your conference championship, you're in, right?
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
Yeah. So,
Except there's not going to be a Power Five next year.
yeah. Yep.
You know, it's a Power Four, so now they got it made.
Yeah. And it just so happens that they're expanding, But yeah, so if it was me and it's four most deserving, I'd be Michigan, Washington, Florida State, and then honestly, and then it gets into a really good conversation of Bama, Texas, Georgia, or Ohio State. And it's really tough. And you're going to have someone, three teams upset and one team happy. Um, but if you go four best teams, tell me what you think of this. If it's four best teams, I think it's Michigan, Washington, Bama, Georgia. I said it going into the SEC championship game. If Bama wins, I think Georgia and Bama should get in. If you're going by the four best teams, what do you think about that?
It's a good argument.
Yeah,
I can't really debate that Georgia is the team that everybody expected to be the three-peat that no one else has ever done,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they had all the tools to do it,
yeah.
and
And then,
they just missed out um, by 3 points
yeah,
to a team that almost missed out at Auburn.
yeah. And it's tough to leave Bama out when you beat Georgia and win the SEC championship game. And recency bias is going to be like, how do we leave Bama out after that, right?
Well, now I don't. I mean, if they still had the four teams next year,
Yeah,
that whole rule about championships and all that means nothing.
yeah,
I mean, the whole thing's out. You left out Florida State, so that means you could leave out Alabama and put
yeah,
in Georgia
yeah, yeah, that's true.
by the same thinking.
Yeah, yeah, they open the door for now. You can make a debate for anything now.
Yeah, yeah, they're saved by the expansion.
Yeah, and even the numbers top four has Florida State in.
Yeah, the polls, all the polls, everybody that ever put any poll together has Florida State in.
Yeah, that's why it makes sense that Florida State got screwed. No matter how you look at it, they got screwed, and it's not their fault they lost their star quarterback, right?
No, I think it's to their credit that they played well without him.
Yeah, exactly.
They came together as a team.
Yeah,
That's all I can say. And they didn't get rewarded for doing it.
yeah, and it sucks because right, like they always talk about battle adversity and still win, right? And you should be rewarded for that, and instead they get demoted.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I feel for Florida State, but there's nothing we can do about it. Um, what do you think? And I think, and it looked like Michigan when they were making their picks for who was making the playoff. Michigan fans were upset and rooting for Florida State to get in because then it would have been Michigan, Florida State. And I think they were kind of upset that Bama gets that 4 seed because Michigan Bama, that's an awfully tough first game for the Wolverines, huh?
It is, but I think any of the top 6 or 7, maybe 8
Yeah,
teams, any one of those are good enough to win.
yeah,
I don't see a team that is overwhelming at all.
yeah,
So um, Michigan playing Alabama, I just consider that another good ball game which either team I think can win,
Yeah.
but um, if I was Michigan, I'd say, come on, Alabama,
Yeah.
bring on this big old team from the Southeast Conference.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a great game.
I
And
don't know that you really want a weak team to play.
yeah.
I mean, you earn it, get out there and earn it. You know, beat the tough guys, and you know, then you deserve it.
Well, yeah, I mean, we do as non-Michigan fans, and Michigan should feel like, hey, we can beat anybody. But whether it's Michigan, Bama, or if it was Michigan, Georgia, you get the feeling like Michigan, as great as they are, might miss the natty again. As great as Michigan is, I think Bama wins. I think Bama could easily win that game, and Michigan for the second year in a row feels like a team that should be in the national championship game might miss out on it again.
Very possible.
Yeah.
The other thing I can throw out there about Alabama is they find a way to win. They're miracle oriented.
Yeah.
They've been that way for the last few seasons, where they seem to be able to pull out something when they're dead. And I don't think that's going to work in a big game like against Michigan.
Yeah.
You got to play them straight up, and when Alabama plays everybody straight up, they struggle.
What about Georgia though? Do you feel like they played Georgia straight up and outplayed them?
Uh, I don't. I thought, because of the familiarity of the two organizations,
Yeah.
that you're playing a team that you know a lot about.
Yeah, the whole Nick Saban versus Kirby Smart.
Yeah, so you know, I don't know there's necessarily uh, like looking at a team that is not in your conference or you don't even see ever.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that takes on a different dimension.
Yeah.
And when when two teams like in the SEC play, I mean, they're usually battles.
Yeah. Throughout the
And
record, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so Michigan is going to be a tougher game for Bama for sure. But I think we get two great games, despite all the who should be in and who shouldn't. Both playoff games should be absolute great games.
yes, they're still, regardless, there's still four very, very good teams
Yeah,
in the playoffs. Although we got to say that there's another four very good teams.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there should be an 18 playoff. Get Ohio
Yes.
State, Georgia, Florida State, all those teams in there.
Yeah.
Te- uh, so and then Texas. So yeah, I kind of lean towards it. Wouldn't surprise me. You know how Michigan and the big game, right? And they've you talk about rivalry and knowing a team well. So Michigan's kind of owned Ohio State the last 3 years, but as Michigan is a outlier for Bama, Bama is an outlier for Michigan, and it's a true test for both teams. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Bama come up and bites Michigan, and Michigan is not quite ready for it, and Bama steals the win. And to your point about Bama and that like miracle and mental toughness, I think it's a culture over the years. A lot of credit to Nick Saban for building a really like mentally tough culture there in Bama, don't you think?
Yeah, they believe that they're going to win,
Yeah,
and they don't give up. I mean,
yeah.
they fight to the very last second. So
We We were talking about it earlier this year about how it feels like Bama isn't quite as talented as years past, right? But here they are once again.
yeah, we talked about that, but we didn't realize that this Milrow was going to develop.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's really good. He's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, the concern to start with the season was who's going to be their quarterback.
Yeah.
We didn't see anybody that was going to step in and be a miracle worker like he did.
Yeah.
They just do it all the time. It's crazy.
And this is going to be a really big test for JJ McCarthy against a really good Bama defense, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I can't wait for that game. That's going to be must-watch football. How about Washington, Texas? Uh, you've got a little bit of a soft spot for Texas, right? Are you rooting for the Longhorns in this playoff?
Well, I spent several, about 15 years in the Dallas area,
Yeah.
and Texas was quite prominent as far as favored there, being that SMU wasn't that good. But I think a lot of people in that area, I've always liked Texas.
Yeah.
Throughout the years, I've always liked Texas. Um, and I've always kind of hoped that they play well and win. So, but I think that that's going to be a real test for Texas.
Yeah. Really good Washington team, and Washington has checked off all the boxes. Each like big game that is a prove it game, and can they get it done? They've gotten it done every time this year.
Yeah, I think the biggest factor in it is that Texas has allowed a lot less points per game than Washington.
Yeah.
So I think, and I love defense. Defense to me wins ball games
Yeah. Me too.
in most cases
Yeah.
if you play it right. But so I really think Texas will win.
Okay.
I think Michigan will win, and I think Texas will win.
Yeah. And that would be a lot of fun, right? That goes back to there was a pretty big bowl game years back, Michigan and Texas, right? And that's kind of a throwback matchup.
Yes.
So that would be cool. I have written down Texas, Alabama, and that's a national championship game we've seen before too.
Yeah, I don't know that they've ever played each other in this kind of environment. Do you recall
Who?
Texas and Alabama?
Yeah, they did. Remember we talked about that when Colt
Oh
McCoy
yeah,
went
yeah,
down with the
yeah.
injury.
Yeah, yeah. That's when Bama won big because Colt went down.
Yeah.
Yes,
So if we could see two teams with healthy
that'd be a
quarterbacks,
good rematch. Yeah,
yeah, and even that year, if Colt McCoy doesn't get hurt, that would have been a great game.
yeah. So I was really looking forward to having a good game there.
Yeah,
I mean, what that was just devastating to Texas.
yeah. But so if it's Texas, Alabama, or Michigan, Texas, either way, those would be really good. Um, I tend to agree. I could see Texas winning that game too. Is Washington getting slept on a little bit, you think?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Man, I mean, I think we got, like we said before, we got four pretty good teams,
yeah.
and
Could go either way.
any one of them can win these ball games. You can't. I mean, you can say which ones you think or you'd like,
Yeah.
but I don't think there's an upset there in that group.
Yeah, to me, I don't know. I'm not picking Washington for whatever reason. I agree with you. I like Texas, and I'll be happy with Michigan, Alabama. I don't care who wins. I'm going to sit back and enjoy that game and hope for a great game because whoever wins that is going to be a great national championship game.
Yeah,
Um, but I think I'm kind of rooting for Michigan, Texas would be a lot of fun.
it would be absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think whatever it works out to be, it's still it's just sad that Florida State didn't get a chance to show what they had against these
Yeah.
good ones. But like I said, we got so many good teams, and the four we got in there are good,
Yep.
even
Absolutely.
if they aren't the right four.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is frustrating that Florida State doesn't get a chance. Georgia and Ohio State even would be tough to beat in that
Yeah,
environment.
yeah.
Um, and did you see Kyle McCord is going to enter the transfer portal
Uh,
for Ohio State?
yes, I did. Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is the only non-quarterback in the Heisman finalists, along with LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels, Oregon's Bo Nix, and Washington's Michael Penix Jr. I'm rooting for the non-quarterback. I'm tired of it being the quarterback award. I like Marvin Harrison Jr. a lot. What do you think about the Heisman?
I wish it would go to the receiver also.
Yeah,
He's been spectacular. I mean, we seem to want to just focus on this one position, and it's like it's so disheartening
yeah,
that they don't look at beyond that position. Once in a while they looked at the running back, but I mean, the best guy in football. I mean, come on, doing who's taking the team to the top?
yeah,
Yeah, I'd like to see Harrison get it too, but being that Ohio State is on the sidelines as far as the playoffs,
yeah.
he's going to be kind of what they call out of sight, out of mind.
I think it's between him and Michael Penix Jr. We talked about that Washington Oregon game. Like the quarterback that wins is your likely Heisman, right? And so I think probably the favorite is Washington quarterback Michael Penix Jr. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, in the minds of think of most people who are in position to vote, I
Yeah,
think so too.
yeah,
What is sad is that that's decided before these games.
yeah. I agree.
And how many times have you seen the Heisman guy go in there and lose
Yeah, lose
the
the
next
first playoff.
game? So I mean, I wish they would do it after everything is over, but that's not the
Yeah,
way.
yeah. Um, yeah, and even being a Michigan State fan, I find myself rooting for Michigan a little bit, and also because I'm rooting for future Bears head coach Jim Harbaugh,
Yeah,
and I'm also rooting for future Bear wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. in the
yeah,
draft. So,
yeah. What, boy, what a deal that would be if that would happen, huh?
hey, that's the recipe. We want to fix Justin Fields and make him a franchise quarterback. Give him Jim Harbaugh and Marvin Harrison Jr. right there.
Yeah, it would be the right step.
Yeah,
Well, the way I see it, but
if they're smart, right?
yeah,
So,
but drafting isn't always doesn't always take the smart route.
yeah, I know. Overthinking
Yeah,
and are the Bears willing to shell out 100 mil plus for Jim Harbaugh, right? So,
yeah. I tend to agree with you that I think maybe Harbaugh's had enough, probably. Even
yeah,
even if he doesn't win the whole thing, I think he's proven himself at Michigan
yeah, yeah,
now that I mean, basically dominating Ohio State the last 3 years. That's enough.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And
Yeah,
a report came out recently this week, and I've heard it said that's the third time I've heard it said that if Jim Harbaugh leaves Michigan, he wants to coach the Chicago Bears.
yeah,
And I think there's, because he went up against Justin Fields for a few years against Ohio State. And I think that he sees something in him and wants to coach him, sees some potential, right?
yeah,
So that would be a lot of fun too. So, but that's for the NFL podcast. But, you know, uh, a lot of fun following this, regular season all the way up through the conference championships. And now the playoffs are set. And we're gonna find out who the Heisman is. And next week we'll go through and look at all the bowl games and preview those. So still a lot of fun left to in the college football season.
yeah. There's going to be some really good matchups in the various bowls. Um, Worth watching.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's a lot of them, so there's going to be plenty of football to watch. But I mean, it's the last few weeks of it is what really draws your attention.
Yeah.
So I mean, but it's nice to see teams like James Madison make it in
Yeah.
to the bowl system when they were told that they can't.
Yeah.
And I was glad to see that worked out for them. And so I mean, it's going to be that's the kind of team I want to watch. Is
Yeah.
what are you going to do with against someone else outside of your little conference?
Yeah. And that's something to look forward to with the 12-team playoff expansion
Yeah,
next year as well. Teams like James Madison, Liberty, who goes
yeah,
undefeated, right?
yes,
It was fun to see Air Force undefeated for quite a while this year.
yep.
So, that'll be fun going into next year as well.
Yeah, we've only got one game coming up next week or this Saturday,
Yeah.
and I mean that's a got to see game anyway. Uh, it doesn't matter what the records are or anything.
Hmm.
The environment and the whole thing about Army Navy is just so unique,
Yeah.
and those guys just battle so hard. I mean, it's good football, even if they both have losing records. It's still going to be a good ball game to watch, I think.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, they're going to have the whole airways for themselves.
Yep. So that'll be fun to watch for sure. And can't wait for these playoffs. These playoffs can go either way. Two great matchups, and you never know. I mean, remember last year we thought we had it figured out, and then TCU shocks Michigan. So
Yeah.
never know what's going to happen, and it'll be fun to react to that, and then preview the
So,
national championship
yeah.
game as
So,
well.
what's your thoughts now about Jimbo out and A&M got a new coach?
Yeah, I'm. I mean, as expensive as it is, I'm not surprised they fired him. He was, talking about being on the hot seat for forever.
Yes.
Um, who did they replace him with?
Mike Elko
Oh yeah,
from
that's
Duke.
a good that's a good hire, don't you think?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do. I think that is a good hire.
Texas.
So, that was a good move.
Do
Um,
you think were they? I know they were impatient, with Kevin Sumlin, right, and guys before him. Do you think they were impatient with him, and do you think they'll be more patient with Elko?
um, I think they were more than patient with Jimbo.
Yeah,
I really do. I mean, they were kind of between a rock and a hard place because of the contract.
yeah,
Um, didn't go a long time ago, actually. But I think they'll embrace their new coach and they're going to expect him to deliver.
yeah,
I mean, almost immediately.
yeah. That's a,
And I think he probably will.
that'll and he's coming in perfect time for the renewed rivalry of Texas A&M, right?
Yeah,
So that'll be cool. I was talking to Richmond Webb, if you remember him, uh, Dolphins left tackle and Texas A&M Aggie, and he was talking about that rivalry and how he's excited to get that back.
yeah, yeah. Always a huge game. That was one you really look forward to around Thanksgiving.
Nice, yeah, so
Yeah.
that'll be cool. And then yeah, so
And then your team brought in
yeah,
a
the
new
Oregon
guy.
State coach.
Yeah,
Uh, I think that's a good hire, and he's bringing with him some coaches and some
yeah,
couple players too. So
yeah.
Michigan State needs some stability, and hopefully he can bring it.
Yeah, I hope that they're somewhat patient with him because the team has been depleted for a while,
Yeah.
so he's going to have to do some rebuilding.
Yep.
I just hope that they'll give him some time to put the thing together.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think that's a good hire.
I heard a little bit that Arch Manning could be potentially impatient. Uh, is Quinn Ewers coming back for another year at Texas?
I haven't heard for certain yet.
Yeah,
Uh,
but
I think it may depend on how the playoffs end up,
yeah.
whether or not he'll do it. I mean,
Well, someone suggested with McCord leaving Ohio State to keep an eye on if Arch Manning potentially goes to Ohio State.
well, he can go anywhere he wants. I mean,
Yeah,
he can pick the school, and they would be glad to have him.
yeah. And then
And he's wants to go to a place where he knows that he can win.
yeah. And then
So
I think Duke quarterback Riley Leonard was visiting or talking about visiting Notre Dame.
yeah, that's what I hear too.
Yeah. Would you? I'm sure you would like that.
Yeah, that would be good. I think that would be rather than just try to bring up one of the other guys you've already got. I mean, I thought the experiment with Hartman worked out well. It's
Yeah.
not what we really expected, but it was pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
And I think
bringing in a an experienced quarterback, I think, is what they need.
yeah. Yep. And I think Freeman is still building it and still establishing his culture there. Uh, maybe year two was still a little early, and we'll see what year three, year four holds for him.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
uh,
Then I see that Indiana has got a new coach.
okay,
The coach from James Madison.
nice.
How about that?
Yeah, that's cool.
That's going to be interesting to watch and see how that develops.
Yeah. Oh, and it's interesting. We'll see if he can get Indiana competitive in the Big Ten. It's always fun when Indiana is at least competitive, and
Yeah, and I just wonder why did he decide to go to Indiana of all places?
yeah,
That's odd to me. I
yeah,
mean, I don't know if there's some connection somewhere that I'm not aware of,
yeah,
but that just seems odd to go from James Madison in Virginia to Indiana.
yeah,
I just, there's got to be something there, I would guess.
yeah. Kind of random a little bit. What do you think with so Deion Sanders in Colorado? They started out so hot and were the talk of college football for like the first 3 or 4 weeks, and then it died down pretty quickly and not a very good end to the season when you look at their record. But year two, they should be better and they should continue to build and get better, right?
Yeah, I think the worst thing that could have ever happened to Colorado is for them to win right away.
Yeah,
Really. Um, I mean, no one really expected them to anyway, even with Dion. I mean, no one expected them to be out of the gate that good.
yeah,
And to surprise everybody, and everybody immediately believed that they're back already.
yeah,
And it's like, wait a minute, wait, whoa, pull the reins. I mean, and the season proved that, um, you know, I think they were taken lightly by some teams originally.
yep,
That Dion was a showman, not really a coach.
yeah.
And
And how good
there,
is how
there was
good
just so
is
much
Shador
hype and
really? Yeah,
yeah, but I'm assuming that he'll stay and finish the job,
yeah,
and whether or not he'll have his boys there or not, that I don't know.
yeah. Hopefully, I hope they kind of run it back. We'll see if Shador, his other kid, and then we'll see if Travis Hunter is back. I would like to see it
Yeah,
another year of it. I just remember week one against TCU, watching that game and being like, "This is the most exciting team in college football. Like this is fun
yeah,
to watch." So
Yeah, but it was TCU now that you look back.
yeah, now that you look back, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't see how he can't manage to keep his boys on the team, and they
Yeah,
were very close with uh, the two-way guy. So I
yeah.
I don't see that will dissolve. I'd be
And
surprised.
a, a little nugget for this podcast tomorrow night. We're gonna have recently fired Grambling State head coach Hugh Jackson.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he's gonna be on the show. It'll be his fourth time on the show tomorrow night. And yeah, he went 3-8 or 3-9 his first year at Grambling, and then 5-6 this year, it showing improvement. And then they fired him, and I felt like, where's the patience there,
yeah,
So, but it'll be fun to have Hugh Jackson on, and he's a friend of the show, and talk some college and some NFL with him. So
yeah. Get a little insight of what he thought happened that they didn't think that he was the guy.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's always got, not afraid to say what he's thinking, and uh, talk some quarterback and all that, and talk some college football playoffs. So that'll be a fun one for
yeah.
sure. But well, good stuff as always, Dean, and we'll do it again next week and talk some bowl games, and hopefully these playoffs are as good as we think.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next couple of weeks. We'll get this thing rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. So good stuff as always. Great to have you on again, and we'll do it again next week. Appreciate you taking the time to come on as always.
Well, again, Alex, I appreciate the opportunity and enjoy doing it with you. Um, just I don't know. I know I'm biased, but this is the greatest sport ever.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah,
so much fun, and the playoffs this year, and the expanded playoffs are just going to make it more and more fun and more great matchups, every year. So can't wait.
yeah, me too.
So all right, well, good stuff as always. Don't forget, appreciate all the support, guys, and don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, check out our interviews, and have a great week, guys. Peace out.